West. Yeah, so if you're here for this talk, thank you. If you're not here for this talk, get out. My name is Bobby Lockhart. We haven't arranged this beforehand, but I'm gonna like punch the air to get you to advance the slides. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So yeah, this is me, and I'm a learning games designer from way back in, I don't know, 2012, not that far back. And I've made learning games for all kinds of learning goals, from early childhood to career training, including some real wacky ones. But yeah, I'm based in Chicago, and I'm very pleased to be in Canada. So yeah, these are some of the learning games that I've made. Not all, but some of the ones I'm proudest of. If you know who I am, it's probably from this game, Codemancer, which is a Kickstarter project that taught kids how to code. But I just got finished. Well, no, first, before I tell you about that, I have to say,
Did your mic cut out?
Did my mic cut out? Or did it just shift? Hello, check. Check. Oh, yeah.
It might be the punching.
Oh, I punched too hard.
You punched too hard, you punched in mute.
Battery. Thank you, good call. I'll still be on time, don't worry. Short pause for battery change. Perfect time to arrive. Oh yes. Is that a life-size bust of my own head in gold? Yes. That's what I'm here to talk about. We can discuss that after, if you like. Thank you so much. So yeah, as I was saying, hot mic. Yeah, these are some of the games I'm known for, but there's one that you're probably super familiar with. So I invented chess. No, I'm warning you that in order to keep you alert, I've added some slides in my presentation that are complete lies, total fabrications. And if you spot one of those, I'd like for somebody to say myth. Busted. All right. So yeah, as we move on into I really did work on another game that launched recently on on Roblox called Code Combat Worlds. It's another game that teaches programming. I know we're getting into a theme here, but it's an MMO that lives on the Roblox platform, and that's how the shock of learning about making an online multiplayer game. It really changed my heart rate permanently, and so I'm here to try and talk about some of the lessons I learned and why or why not you might make an online multiplayer learning game. Yeah, so these are all single player. I made some asynchronous multiplayer games in the past, but for all the players to be there, chatting with one another, hitting each other, whatever. Yeah. Let's keep going. So yeah, the structure of this talk is basically a big pros and cons list. So it used to be a stupid question, should I make my learning game a multiplayer game, because it was basically impossible. Making an online multiplayer game is so expensive, so difficult, that anyone who actually cared about children would not be able to do it. Somehow the amount you care about children and the amount of money you have is like inversely proportional. Yeah. So, but things have changed. These are some tools we have now: Roblox Studio, UEFN, and newly released GTA Maker. Nice. Busted.
Aw.
All right, you got the hang of this. Perfect. Yeah, so that isn't a real tool, but it has become much more accessible to make an online multiplayer learning game, either on those like closed platforms or even the libraries available for Unreal and Unity and stuff. So yeah, why might you make your learning game an online multiplayer game? Camaraderie. That's the simplest one. Why do you make a multiplayer game in general? It's because you want to hang out with your friends. Yeah, and there's aspects to that. So like you get to get emotional support. That's something that's especially true for a learning game, which is a very stressful situation. Having your friends there to support you through it, working together, and also just kind of distraction. Sometimes that's like a coping mechanism for a stressful situation, like being thrust into learning something new. And yeah, when your friends are there, that's really helpful. But the other side of that coin is toxicity.
Yeah.
So, same graphic. But yeah, it's basically the opposite valence. And if there's basically nothing we can do about it, unfortunately. There's lots of tools, especially on Roblox. They've tried to make it really hard to do bullying and toxic things on their platform, but they're all sort of technological interventions. They're like word filtering and some moderation of what experiences get submitted. But it's so easy to get around these things. Just culturally, we all know things have euphemisms. So I need a noun from the audience. Any noun.
Carrot.
What'd you say?
Booger.
Booger. You little booger. Did that feel good? Probably not. Anything, another noun?
Dragon.
You freaking dragon.
Yeah.
How? You can turn anything into an insult. I think British people are better at it than us.
Absolute dragon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if anything can be an insult or a euphemism for an insult or just like a slightly displaced one, it's impossible to prevent bullying on a technological level. It has to be done at a cultural level. So, yeah, and that's a really, really tough challenge. If you're not like paying people to be in your multiplayer game, if they're paying you, they'll use it how they want to use it. Yes, thank you. So another pro, it's an expectation kind of now because of the way that the games industry is structured. Every game has become a live service game. All the live service games that existed were eating up all the dollars, and so like every normal premium game is like fighting for that last tiny little slice, and people decided to stop fighting for that slice and make their own live service game. Now everything's a live service game, and kids are just used to that. Here's all this places where they spend time. I don't know if they know that there are single player games. And it's kind of become a cliche that like these places are the hangout, the homago of digital space, and there's a lot of societal stupid reasons why that is. Not a lot of freedom in the real world, so you go where the freedom is, and it's on these spaces. So in order to conform to that expectation, you might want to make your learning game into an online multiplayer game. But yes, the other side of that coin is you get all the expectations that come with that. And the way that live service games work have certain constraints. So like this is Code Combat Worlds, and we added a treasure chest that you collect emeralds from, but they spawn every 12 hours. And that's because that's just a thing that players expect. They expect to have things that have cooldown timers that you come back to again and again. And I don't think that this is necessarily like important to our design. But it's a thing that players wanted and that does well on the platform, so we put it in. And there's more predatory versions of this same thing that we're trying to resist, but you know, it's hard, especially when it's not just like analytics telling you that things are popular on the platform, but like actual players. Yeah. And then, yeah, one of the other pros is Cash Money Boy.
Oh, myth.
Myth, yes, thank you. Busted, all right. So yeah, you're not guaranteed to get a ton of money just by making your game online multiplayer. In fact, it's very, very, very expensive to do that. Not just the game development, but ongoing hosting, and yeah, it's in a lot of cases a bad idea. I mean, Roblox and UEFN are exceptions to that. They'll handle the hosting for you, but they also take rent, basically. they charge rent for that. So yeah, it's that's a total myth. But what is there is potentially mentorship. So friendship is like peer-to-peer relationship, but there's also sort of a mentor-mentee relationship that can develop in a multiplayer game. So for example, here is Dark Souls 3, and they've got the summon feature, and it's really a pain to become summonable. You have to get this item, and but people do it anyway because they like helping each other. Yeah, you can see this little ghostly guy is going to help this dude fight a boss. He didn't have to do that. But I mean, part of it is like a status thing. You get to show off, look at how cool I am. I know this boss pattern or whatever. And this is true of learning games too. We see it all the time in Code Combat Worlds where people will say like, go in this level and there's, you know, you're supposed to harvest 5 wood from the tree. You should use a while loop to do it or whatever. So they're giving each other tips and tricks. And then the opposite side of that, I think, is embarrassment. It's rough. One of the virtues of learning games in general, especially digital learning games, is how quickly they reset, how low the stakes are, how easy it is to fail and try again, and how pain-free that process is. But now, first of all, if you're in an MMO, there's no pause, there's no rewind. But also, everyone sees you fail. So you have to, again, there's a cultural problem where you have to make it okay to fail in public. And there's a certain amount of bravery that you, in the design, have to honor the player for putting themselves out there. Yeah, so this is what it feels like. It doesn't feel great. We've all been there. Yeah, one of the awesome things you can do in an MMO is specialization. So you're used to this pattern in any MMO of a well-balanced party. You have tanks and fighters and healers and whatever. And they all make up for one another's weaknesses. And this is actually a really great, authentic way to learn in a project-based manner, right? You can build a team that all have strengths and weaknesses, and you make up for each other's weaknesses, and you create something together. And yeah, everyone feels empowered by this process. I don't know, some of the best experiences I've had in my life, like speaking on a meta level, creating games is such a process. Yeah. And then, yeah. So the way that education is structured, unfortunately, doesn't always want to support specialization. Every kid has to pass the same test or whatever. So if you have strengths and weaknesses, you know, you're incentivized to shore up those weaknesses rather than to play to the strengths. And playing to the strengths is what makes you feel good, but you know, at the end of the day, every kid has to graduate, right? And that's just on an institutional level. Obviously, that's not true in the home. Kids don't have to graduate to the big boy bed or whatever. But yeah, that specialization, while it's like an ideal way, I think, to learn, ideal ways to learn are few and far between in real life. Ow! They want all Luigis. Not as good as all Marios, but good enough to pass. Luigi's a B+.
Oh, I was not telling this Luigi.
I mean, in an ideal world, we'd have Marios, we'd have Wario's, we'd have Waluigi's, we'd have the whole spectrum. But they want to make everyone fit into the Luigi-sized hole. So yeah, another pro we've got is self-expression. Something built into most games of this sort is avatar creation. These are some avatars from Roblox. And these are all, believe it or not, supported, and they all run the same set of animations. So their like walk animation is the same, and their dances all work the same. They have the same skeleton. So some of them get really wacky, and they get really big or really small, and it's really it's a crazy thing. But kids get to be a version of themselves that they want to try out. You know, identity play is one of those G learning principles that we want to encourage. On a technical level, it's a real pain, like, because what size do you make a door or whatever? Like, you have to deal with actual practicality of these things. But I think it's well worth it in terms of supporting kids, you know, feeling like they're safe and effective in this learning environment. Yeah, so one of the cons is the hypnotism that's built into learning games, and you know, it can be really mesmerizing, and kids just shut off their brains and they go into a deep sleep, and they're getting sleepier now, and they feel like their eyelids are heavy. Myth, thank you. Busted. There's no hypnotism. What a silly notion. All right. But yeah, the thing that I have to point out, unfortunately, is kind of the elephant in every room with multiplayer games is literal danger. Kids, if they give out identifying information, can become targets for weirdos, and so you have to make that impossible. And Roblox has tried to do that, and I think it's very effective, and I think it's maybe so effective that it makes making a learning game really difficult on their system. So for example, all of their text has to go through a particular filter, and the filter, if you have a number that's more than like 3 digits long, takes it out.
Oh, phone numbers.
Because you don't want address numbers, you don't want phone numbers, you don't want credit card numbers passing between players on the platform. So that's effective, but I was working on a game that teaches programming, and you want to be able to debug your code. So like print statements also go through this filter. So it's really, really hard to see, like, you know, what line number am I on? Or, you know, what error code is this? Yeah, and there's all sorts of things like that where if you, err on the side of caution, of course, like there's nothing worse than having caused harm to a kid. But I wonder if there are other ways, but you know, if you're going through this, obviously, like, here's some prior art for you. If you're making an MMO from scratch, yeah, probably caution is the way to go to start, and then loosen it up and maybe add layers of Swiss cheese. Are you familiar with the Swiss cheese method? Basically, the idea is if you are creating a security system, a secure system, and each layer is not perfect, each layer of that security system, but you add enough layers so that, like, if you look through a block of Swiss cheese, each slice has holes, but in the block, there's no way to go straight through. So basically, just create enough difficulty, and bad actors will not be able to do things, or at least not easily enough as they'd like, and they'll be dissuaded. How? All right, what's that? Oh yes, this is Perfect Fit videos. Yeah, can you bring up, I can't remember why I put this here. I love Perfect Fit videos, but can you bring up the speaker notes? Oh yeah. Okay, never mind, I didn't tell myself why we're doing this. I guess it's about just being just so. No notes. Well, anyway, things fit into other things perfectly sometimes, and it's very satisfying. What was I thinking? If you find out, please let me know.
Is that a YouTube video you like?
Yes. But we don't have to play it. It's obviously not relevant enough for me to even know what can we move on? Okay. Yeah, so thank you so much for coming. I've been Bruce Lockwood. Myth! Ha ha ha! Very nice. Busted. Appreciate it. Yeah, so this is what you were asking about before, the Game Designer's Notebook. This is a book I'm writing of game design exercises. Just basically a bunch of worksheets collected that are designed to help students learn all the little aspects of game design and practice them solo. It all fits in one thing. But that's yeah, that's the talk. Thank you so much. I may have gone super fast.
I know you mentioned as a joke with the cons being hypnotism, but I work in a library and we do have a game room inside of that library, and the hypnotism thing is a little too close to what I actually see, just like a complete zone out. And I could say that the longest I've seen someone, and it was a child, stay in front of the screen was probably about 6 hours moving. So
Rookie numbers.
Yeah,
Get those up.
yeah. A thing that I've encountered in the course of this project is because it's on Roblox, the way that kids consume that is kind of like an ulcer thing, where they're like moving in groups, like from experience to experience. So there's not a hint of boredom. If they're like smell a whiff of it, they're gone. And so to try and get a student with that frame of mind to do some actual like puzzle solving or thinking, if you presented it to them right away, they would just hit it and bounce off. So our sort of approach was to like have a very gradual off ramp of like, okay, there's a bunch of stuff early in the game. You don't have to think, just go over here and click on this, and then you get points like crazy, and then you can spend the points, and then blah, 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 you get crafting materials, and you can craft. And it's like, oh, but if you went and like learned to code, then this part would be more effective. So we're almost like upselling the idea of thinking. And yeah, so that, yeah, I don't know. I was just telling someone about the fact that as a kid, I played Master of Orion 2 in the exact same way every day for like a month, and won every day. And I don't know why I did that, but I suspect that it is just like one of those physiological like learning things. So it's like I am learning something from doing this. So I hesitate to say that it's purely destructive to be like completely mesmerized by a digital experience, but it might be one of those like deep brain loopholes of like, my lizard brain wants me to learn something about this, but it's not useful to a human. Anyway, yeah. You're absolutely right. There's something hypnotic, but yeah, I hope it's not any more, and hopefully it's less than a standard like sort of MMO built purely based on the profit motive.
It's a Roblox game, I do know that,
Mm.
but it was more like the lack of movement, where I was like, do you want to like hydrate?
Yeah, I get that. Yes.
Is there a story with the bus?
Yes. So I made. Are you familiar with the show Taskmaster?
Yeah.
So my family and I went on vacation, and I was the taskmaster. And I created a bunch of tasks, and I would hand them out throughout the vacation, and my family would have to do the tasks. And the winner of Taskmaster traditionally receives a bust of the taskmaster from the show, but in this case, I made a bust of my own head so that I could award it to the winner, who was my brother-in-law, Zach.
So I'm also looking at making multiplayer games for therapy
Mm.
with like, healthy, good social connections, which can be tricky.
Uh-huh.
Why did you pick Roblox and versus some other platform for the multiplayer stuff?
It actually started as a solicitation from Roblox, because Code Combat was somewhat famous for having made these like web games that teach coding. So Code Combat, Ozaria, AI League, and then coming soon, Hackstack, Code Combat Junior. Anyway, like lots of, so that was like right in the wheelhouse. And they're trying to put together a portfolio of educational experiences on Roblox. And we're like, this is an interesting challenge. And we know at least one piece of it we've got unlocked, like just the making puzzles that teach computer science. And we took a different approach because this is a different language. We're actually teaching Luau, which is the like Roblox extension of Lua. And there's like a side goal of making kids familiar with Roblox Studio itself, the tools that allow kids to make their own Roblox experiences. And yeah, I have mixed feelings about like helping lock kids into this ecosystem for sure. But I don't know, those were assuaged somewhat by just like the fact that we were giving them these tools to express themselves. Yeah, so I hope that kids take it in the spirit it's meant in. Yeah.
So, I mean, you started with like the pros and cons list. Like overall, was it better because it was multiplayer? Like, was it neutral? Like, what do you think?
I think it's better in the sense that it is very authentic that programming is done with teams of people that can all help each other.
Yeah.
But not all learning goals are like that. There's things that you need to be sort of learned solo before you can join the group.
Yeah.
And in those cases, I feel like it would have been better to go. And it was a real hassle. It's not done. We're still updating this game. I would say it's like not even in
now it's live.
its state right now. Yeah, it's live. There's lots of players playing it. I'm embarrassed about some stuff in there. But yeah, it's an ongoing process. And one nice thing is multiplayer learning games can have single player learning games embedded in them.
Sure.
So yeah, there's levels, puzzle levels that once you step inside a portal, you're now like solo and siloed. Yeah. So when all else fails, you can just like make more and more of the experience,
Make
like
it
single
player,
player,
yeah.
and then just have
Well, I
sort of
mean,
a
that's
lobby.
like most live MMOs today. It's like, you know, playing together alone.
Yeah, parallel.
Parallel play, yeah.
Would you do Roblox again?
Let's talk about that when we're not being recorded.
I'd love to chat with you
Yeah, for sure. Anyone else? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.